India's top-notch banks in the country, and soon we have taken a decision to surpass the business of 20 lakh crore. So that is our corporate objective, and we are very sure. Our chairman sir has given a call to achieve that business by 2023. But our teams are making all our effort to make this dream come true, and soon we are going to be the number 2 bank in India after SBI, surpassing PNB. So naturally associated with a big bank, and having handled this valuation aspect in a threadbare manner in my 17 years of banking experience. So little bit I am touching whatever my experience about the valuations, and now I would broadly cover the valuation into two parts. One is we are the end user of the valuation as far as any financial institution is concerned, or in this dynamic scenario in India. So valuation report that a professional valuer completes, we as a financial institutions, we get a benefit for taking an informed decision, because most of the valuations we take valuation regarding machinery, that machinery may be a used machinery, may be an unused machinery, because we do not have the core competency and the information required, or we can say the technical skill to assess the valuation, to take an informed decision whether what assessment we can take about the collateral or the primary security of that property. So, valuation report, why we are stressing upon thing, while funding or taking any collateral, or you can say any primary security, we consider two parts of it. First is the property or the mortgage which we are accepting is legally enforceable. Now, when I see the legal enforceability aspect of the valuation, it covers two parts. One is the title of the property is clear and it is error free, and the person who is mortgaging the property has all the rights to mortgage the property. That is the one part of it. Second part of it, which is the most important aspect, though there are certain criteria where we found as a banker, when though the property is legally enforceable, but there are certain issues with regard to the marketability of the property, which we found at a later or a different stages when we go for the enforcement, or you can say sale of those property under the Servicing Act nowadays. Or we can say what when we go for the enforcement through the code of law. Then we found now the major discrepancy, or you can say the difficulty which we face with regards to the marketability aspect of the property. When I talk about the marketability aspect of the property or the mortgage which we are accepting, that covers one part of it. Maybe there are certain aspects, title of the property may be clear, but there are certain restrictions about the property. The property may not be properly demarcated. Now that aspect cannot be covered in the legal report. There we are falling back upon the respected valuers for their expert opinion. Second part of it is the property may be, I'm just not taking the technical valuation aspect of it. I'm just talking about the what is the marketing dynamics, because marketing dynamics after the, you can say, subprime crisis that has happened in US, we have seen lot of volatility in the market values of the property also. As a banker, as a financial institution, if I say the strike rate or the you can say success rate in the sale of the property, though it has improved remarkably these days, but still it is not more than 20 to 22% after this improvement also. Now, we being the end user of the valuation report, which our respected valuers prepare, now that is sound from a physical structure and features. Now, physical structures, when I talk about, now there is a, I think as far as I remember, there is a building code applicable in India that is applicable for the property value 25 crores and above. Second thing is the legal right, naturally that will be taken care of by the panel advocate. And the third is economical benefit. Now, this is founded on the sound research and a high degree of technical knowledge on the matters relating to a property. And this sound degree of knowledge and the technical aspect is, the valuer is a competent person to give an informed opinion about that property. So, Now, while regulating on the conduct of the property, there are certain parameters which obviously I think different banks have adopted different formats which contain different set of information. But by and large, if we see the basic information, it relates to whether the property is approachable from a certain distance, what are the facilities available near the property, whether the property has proper boundaries or it is properly demarcated. And nowadays, because due to the advancement of the technical things, now we are stressing more upon the location of the property of the you can say Google Maps or the access of the property. Now, as far as valuers are concerned, valuers give a proper insight about the valuation aspect of the property. Why I am stressing about the marketability aspect? Because this is the most important. We take collateral, that is as a last lender's last resort, that in case the loan defaults and once we go for the enforcement of that particular mortgage or the particular security, how safe we are and what value we are, what this particular mortgage is going to fetch for that property. As far as the valuers, nowadays you can say this is a legal and technical aspect is being discussed here. So I would like to briefly touch upon the certain judgments of the Honorable Supreme Court as we are operating in India. They have come heavily and they have questioned the valuations given by our panel valuers. Now, in all aspects, whatever valuation we are taking now, the only issue when it comes, as far as our bank is concerned and as per the IBA guidelines also, I think you are all enriched people. The valuers, we are divided into two parts. One, there are valuers who are working while giving the, who's looking after the lending aspects of the property. Now, what I see that, and second one is the valuers who are surfacing talent valuers. That means there may be certain set of valuers or the persons, professionals who are empaneled in both the areas. So what we see that, sir, as a banker, as a financial institutions, once we go for the enforcing the properties, we see a drastic reduction in the value of the property at the time of mortgage or at the time of funding the loan, vis-a-vis when the property went for enforcement. Sometimes these drastic reductions are to the extent of 100 to 200% itself. When these things happens, now naturally these things are being questioned in court of law also, that in a certain span of time when everywhere property value is on the higher side or there is the escalation in the value of the property, why the value of the property is decreased or why bank has sold the property below the market value or why this particular property is being sold. So these aspects are of common nature and in being regularly questioned in the court of law. Now, I think changes in the property market have also made it necessary to be more prudent and application of principle when assessing the valuation. Now, the market is showing the signs of volatility. Once we have seen the subprime crisis also, we have seen the COVID times also. Now, these are all unprecedented scenarios which has given us certain inputs to be more careful, to be more diligent. So what we expect as a financial lender, or we can say anybody, because any financial lender or any prudent buyer of the property make a informed decision from on getting the inputs from his valuer. Because as a lender or you can say as a layman is not technically or you can say technically or legally sound enough to understand these aspects. So market is showing the signs of data analysis. Participants in the market may make costly decisions. It is for the reason that we implore upon the broader markets to visit and you can say we fall back upon valuers, our respected dignitaries, you being professionals and very experienced person in this field. So particularly now the house is open. I think I have already completed my 10 minutes. I'm briefly winding up my speech. And now I request Dazi to make it an open session and any query and with regard to things, we will certainly like to get a feedback from you and we will also actively participate in this. With me, our DM Recovery Digital Manager, Mr. Faruqi is also there. So he'll also share his inputs. He's also a very active person, very young, dynamic divisional manager in our regional office. So I also welcome him and requesting everybody because we have already closed the, you can say, 20 participants are there as I can see. So now this house is open, so I request the Honorable Convener to take this order.
Sir, if he can, sir, if he is interested to speak something, then request him to speak also.
Yes, Parvati, if you want to say something.
I will request Dr. Farooq to speak.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for giving me this opportunity. I'm thankful enough to join this forum. And as far as the valuation is concerned, it is a very important aspect in our banking sector. And it plays a very important role, as you have said, sir, that at the time of using SARFAESI and other, while we are going to sell the property, we face many difficulties regarding undervaluation, and there are so many things which definitely will give insight to this forum, that we can get some valuable inputs from the valuer fraternity, which is available right now with us. So my view is that it is very important aspects at the time of valuation, when we get from the our panel valuer. And one more aspect is said that as far as valuation of automobile like vehicles, when we are going to sell vehicles right now in Kanpur, we are not having much scope. So it can be get from this forum that we could panel some valuable panel for this selling of vehicles. Thank you, sir.
Okay, sir, we will give some list to you. You can select ones. Thank you, sir. Mr. Ghoshal, please continue. Hello.
Your mic is mute. Ghoshal, your mic is mute. Ghoshal, please unmute your mic.
लाओ से फोन करो या मैंने घुसा तू फोन करो ना ओए घुसा फोन अरे तो ऑफिस का बस कैसे करो ना अरे करो तो कुछ तो नहीं तो इससे करो I think there is some problem with Mr. Ghoshal. Now I'll like to request our chairman Vivek Asthana to take part. Vivek Asthana, Chairman, Institutional University, please.
Good evening, everybody. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
बोलिए सर.
आज इस वेबिनार के हमारे मुख्य अतिथि श्री मुकेश मल्होत्रा, रीजनल मैनेजर सर, हमारे आज के कार्यक्रम के एक्सपर्ट स्पीकर श्री रंजन कुमार राणा जी, आईवा के प्रेसिडेंट इंजीनियर एस दास जी, कन्वेनर प्रोफेसर मानिक घोषाल जी, अरे आईवा के महासचिव इंजीनियर के उपाध्याय जी हमारे साथ हैं. आइए इंडिया कानपुर सेंटर के रमाकांत यादव जी और हमारे साथ जुड़े सभी आईवा के सदस्य और इंस्टीट्यूशन ऑफ इंजीनियर के सदस्य। ये जो सीरीज ऑफ वेबिनार शुरू की गई है, इस सीरीज में ये एक फिर से बहुत ही बेनिफिशियल डिस्कशन हम लोग आज कर रहे हैं लीगल एस्पेक्ट्स ऑफ वैल्यूएशन। स्पेशली जैसा कि हमें पता है कि ये वैल्यूएशन की फील्ड में आज भी रूल्स, रेगुलेशंस, गाइडलाइंस, डायरेक्शंस, स्टैंडर्ड्स, इसकी कमी है, ये फुल प्रूफ नहीं है हमारे पास। तो किसी भी चीज का प्रॉपर्टीज का, स्पेशली प्लांट्स एंड मशीनरी, बिल्डिंग्स, लैंड्स, इन सब के वैल्यूएशन के लिए बहुत सारे डिसीजन हमको डिस्क्रिशनरी लेने पड़ते हैं कि हम क्या थंब रूल ले रहे हैं, किस मैथडोलॉजी के साथ, किस अप्रोच के साथ ये वैल्यूएशन कर रहे हैं, और अल्टीमेटली उस वैल्यूएशन की जो वैल्यू आ रही है तो वो इससे प्रभावित होती है। तो इसलिए इसके जो लीगल इम्प्लीकेशन है वो हमें देखने की बहुत बड़ी जरूरत है आज की डेट में, और ये एक बहुत चैलेंजिंग सा टॉपिक है। स्पेशली जैसा अभी हमारे चीफ गेस्ट साहब ने बहुत सारी चीजें बताई कि किसी लैंड की या बिल्डिंग की वैल्यूएशन के लिए हम वैल्यूएशन करते हैं, तो इसके जो भी लीगल हमारे लॉज हैं, जजमेंट्स हैं, उसके तहत उसकी अल्टीमेट वैल्यू क्या हो रही है, उसमें कितने कंस्ट्रेंट्स आ रहे हैं, क्या एडवांटेज हो रहा है, क्या डिसएडवांटेज हो रहा है, ये सब कंसीडर करते हुए हम एक फाइनल वैल्यू पे पहुंचते हैं, तभी हमारा वैल्यूएशन एक फुल प्रूफ होता है। तो अभी मैं देख रहा था जो हमारे बहुत सारे एक्सपर्ट्स इसमें जुड़े हुए हैं, लैंड के वैल्यूएशन से रिलेटेड या लैंड के ट्रांसफर से रिलेटेड जो इंडिया में एग्जिस्टिंग रूलिंग्स है, वो अर्बन लैंड सीलिंग एंड रेगुलेशन एक्ट है, कुछ 4-5 ही एक्ट है। ट्रांसफर ऑफ प्रॉपर्टी एक्ट 1882 का है, इसके बाद जो है लैंड एक्विजिशन एक्ट है जिसके तहत जो है गवर्नमेंट की लैंड एक्वायर की जाती है, रजिस्ट्रेशन एक्ट है और रेंट कंट्रोल एक्ट है। तो इन सारे एक्ट के तहत बहुत सारे डिस्प्यूट्स रहते हैं किसी भी लैंड के रजिस्ट्रेशन के लिए या किसी भी लैंड के ट्रांसफर के लिए, एक्विजिशन के लिए। तो इन सभी के सारे प्रोसीजर्स फॉलो करते हुए हम उससे अवेयर होने के बाद उसका एक फुल प्रूफ वैल्यूएशन करें, तभी उसकी एक अल्टीमेटली फुल प्रूफ वैल्यू हमें मिल सकती है जो कि नॉन डिस्प्यूटेड होगी और किसी भी कोर्ट में उसको चैलेंज नहीं किया जा सकता है। तो इसके लिए इन पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से जिसका एनालिसिस करना बहुत जरूरी है। मैं आशा करता हूं कि अभी हमारे जो भी डिफरेंट टॉक्स होंगे इसमें हमें बहुत सारी चीज़ें इससे रिलेटेड जानकारी मिलेगी। तो मैं एक बार फिर से इस प्रोग्राम के कन्वेनर का, आईवा के प्रेसिडेंट दास साहब का धन्यवाद देना चाहता हूं कि मुझे आप लोगों से इंटरैक्ट करने की अपॉर्चुनिटी दी गई। थैंक यू वेरी मच।
Thank you, Vivek Customer ji. I am very sorry if the mic somehow muted. Connection problem was there. Now our next speaker is हमारी सेक्रेटरी आ गई कानपुर श्री रमाकांत यादव। रमाकांत यादव जी प्लीज।
Thank you, Gosal ji. Good evening to all. Good evening, Das ji, उपाध्याय जी, II चेयरमैन अस्थाना जी, टुडे चीफ गेस्ट Ganesh ji. Our today's speaker is Mr. Ranjan Raina. He is a valuer based at Bhopal, Madhya Pradesh. He is a registered valuer under category Land and Building with Ministry of Finance under Wealth Tax Act and exercising as valuer for more than 30 years. Mr. Raina has completed his Bachelor of Civil Engineering in 1986 and thereafter completed LLB. Apart from valuation of properties, he is also practicing as project management, consultant and arbitrator also. Arbitrator too. He is chairman of All India Valuers Association Madhya Pradesh region and also chairman of Valuer Forum Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh. He is an avid activist in professional field of valuation and fought at large against integrity of various courts and also out of court. Thank you, Ghosalji. His data of Mr. Ranjan Raina. And I would like to invite Mr. Ranjan Raina to deliver his talk.
Thank you, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes, sir. Okay. Firstly, I would like to thank our chairman, Shri Das sir, for inviting me for discussion. I respected chief guest, Mr. Malhotra sir, RM Kannada Bank, Mr. Faruqi sir, Vivek Asthana ji, Padai ji, and Professor Mainak Gosal sir. Legal aspects of valuation. Why I chose this topic? Because it's very close to my heart, and it is the least discussed subject amongst valuers. That is why I chose this subject. And at the very outset, I would like to make it very clear to all of you that I am not a legal expert, and whatever I am discussing here is based on my personal knowledge and experience. Some of my friends may have different experience and their views may be contrary to that of mine. Now listen to it very carefully. I repeat, I would like to make it very clear that I am not a legal expert and whatever I am discussing here is based on my personal knowledge and experience only. Now, why I repeated and emphasized on this statement? This is very important because I wanted to emphasize that disclaimers, limiting conditions, assumptions and scope are very important part and parcel of any bulking report. It clearly gives an idea to the client about the limitations of the report. Absence of any such clauses could be disastrous for the valuer because the scope may be treated as bigger than that, what actually it is. So, legal aspects of any valuation report will be categorized in two parts. Number one is civil liabilities and number two is criminal liabilities. Civil liabilities may be covered under indemnity clause that is limited to repayment of any losses suffered by the client due to your report. Whereas criminal liability is not limited to paying compensation for the losses, but it could land the valuers in trouble, like it could be sent to jail also. It is not an exaggerated statement, and so many prominent valuers had to spend sleepless nights in prison cell. Some of them were innocents too. It's very important. So now we can say that legal aspects of valuation reports are very, very important, and we all must know the consequences of each and every word that we write in the report. Purpose of today's talk is to enlighten the valuers about the words they write in the report so lightly and that do not consider the consequences of the words they write. Later on, those consequences come and they land in trouble. So our job as a valuer is very important as we are the real chowkidars of banks and income tax department, apart from various other stakeholders who rely on our report and treat it as sacrosanct. Now let us firstly talk about civil liabilities covered under indemnity bond. And now these days, as you all know, banks are asking for indemnity bond. So the indemnity bond of State Bank of India says, and I read it for you, that I or we shall duly and faithfully perform and discharge all the duties in the works entrusted by the bank in relation to the purposes of empanelment, fairly without any favor and discrimination, and I hereby undertake and agree to indemnify you, your successors and assigns at all the times and from time to time, from and against all loss, damage, and all actions, suits, proceedings, expenses, costs, charges, and demands arising out of any act, lapses, defaults, negligence, errors, mistakes committed by me in performance of my professional obligations, and I also hereby undertake and agree to pay to you on demand sums of money, costs, charges, and expenses incurred in respect thereof, and also to pay you as per all such monies at your ruling rate. So, what bank desires that in case of default and in case our report is not good, like it has some errors, negligence, mistakes, lapses, defaults, anything. So we have to pay back the money, including the interest and other harcha kharcha, and also the interests on them. And not only that, the indemnity bond says that I further specifically agree that this indemnity shall continue to remain in force and we shall continue to be liable thereunder for all losses, damages, costs, charges, and expenses arising out of any act, lapse, default, negligence, errors, mistakes committed by me in performance of my professional obligations, and shall be binding on me and our legal heirs and personal representatives, successors, and assigns. So not only you are liable for the report, your representatives, successors, and assigns are also legal successors are also binding on your report, who maybe not be knowing anything about valuation. So each word of this indemnity is so very important and carries huge weight and repercussions. Now a question arises. Why should we not own responsibility of any report prepared by us? Why should not we not be penalized for the wrong report? This is a very valid question that is asked by the banks to the valuers. So why should not be held responsible for wrong report? The simple answer should be yes. We should be held responsible, and we should own responsibility of the report, and also be prepared for any civil or criminal consequences arising out of wrong report. Then, why are we opposing indemnity clause? We are throughout India, pan-India, we are opposing indemnity clause. Why we are opposing it? Do we want to enjoy the benefits without taking any responsibility? Maybe the banks think so, that you want the fees, but you don't want to share responsibility. The answer is no. That is not so. The problem with indemnity clause is that we many times we cannot justify our correct report when it is put under judicial scanner. But the same report, good report, is put under judicial scanner, we will not be able to justify our report. Why? The two main reasons, in my opinion, are: the firstly, we find huge difference in government guideline rates, also known as collector rate, gentry rates, etc., in different parts of country across India, different parts of states across India. Secondly, we don't get sale instances of similar properties that can be used as evidence in the court of law. This is also very important, because the sale instance should be similar, and for similar property, it's very difficult to find out an evidence of this, because generally, as everyone knows, that the black money part is also there in transactions, and people tend to register the property on government guideline or gentry rate only. The rest of the part is transacted on in cash. So we don't find instances of similar property sale instances. That is very difficult. So we cannot prove our correct report in the court of law. So in such a case, giving indemnity is such a risky thing. And also, apart from these two reasons, there may be some other reasons also, smaller reasons also, like non-availability of Indian valuation standards. there is no valuation standards available in India, which is approved by a parliament of which is accepted by court of law as evidence. We talk of international valuation standards, but it has never seen the court of law in India. So even IBBI, this insolvency, they also consider it sacrosanct. But I don't think that international valuation standards are good enough for Indian conditions, because in Western world, not so much black money is transacted in sales of real assets. So apart from those two reasons, this non-availability of Indian valuation standards, lack of knowledge of subject amongst external stakeholders like bankers, investigative agencies, and courts. Bankers say that we do not know anything about valuation, because that is why we have sought an expert opinion. You are an expert, your opinion is sacrosanct, we accept it, we do not know anything about it. Now, investigative agencies like police, CBI, whatever, they also don't know anything about valuation. And the court of law, the judges, they also do not know anything about valuation. And the advocates that represent banks and agencies and valuers, they also do not know anything about valuation. So in such a case, when you cannot justify your correct valuation, I don't think asking for indemnity is a good thing. So that is why we are opposing it. And not only we are opposing, all the, not all, but the majority of the high courts across India have given stay orders against indemnity, because they understand that these valuers are the weak link and they cannot be for something they cannot justify. And so many high courts have given stay orders against this indemnity thing. So this is about civil liability, indemnity. And there is also a myth amongst valuers that preparing reports with value on lower side is a safer option. As Mr. Malhotra just said, that when we go for auction, we don't get good response, and there is a huge difference between the value certified by the original valuer at the time of sanction and at the time of auction. There is a huge difference. So it's a myth that if you certify a value on lower side, it's a safer option. It is not true. NP account valuation on lower side is equally dangerous, and it also carries disastrous consequences, especially when the value is lower than the government guideline value. Or there is a huge difference between your report and the value given at the time of sanction of loan. Suppose he just said that there is 100 to 100% difference. So not only the valuer who has given report at the time of sanction, you also have to justify your report with evidence in the court of law. Otherwise, there are so many instances where they sold the property, the bank sold the property, and now there's a question mark on the bank and as well as on the valuer that you two have conspired and sold the property at a very cheap price, whereas at the time of sanction it was say 100 crores, and now you are selling it for 50 crores. And the borrower goes to the court and court admits the case, and now both the valuers and the bank faces the consequences. After this IBBI came and insolvency proceedings came, the haircut was for Videocon it was as far as 94%, and the average haircut was 60%. Now it was all legally done. Haircuts were given. Banks faced and saw that they have to get a very little sum as proportional to the loan amount. But in SARFAESI action, it is not acceptable that if the value was 100 crores and now if we are getting only 40 crores, if that is not acceptable to bank. Whereas NCLT, it is done under the umbrella of all the legal things. So it should be understood that nobody is prepared to buy an NPA asset in white money, because he can very well buy a similar property by paying black money. So why would he go to the bank for buying auction property and paying all white, and that too with the risk of other consequences? So the difference is very well justified, and it is known to everyone. Secondly, the difference is just because the banks do not go for advertising. Advertising means like conversing people, going for a property dealer, paying a commission to them. So without any dealer or without any aggressive marketing, properties cannot be sold like that. So this is also a problem. So as Malhotra Sahab said, that marketability should be considered. Demarcation is very important. So as far as marketability is concerned, suppose there is a huge commercial complex owned by someone, and the shops are on rent, the upper floors are also on rent, and some shops are rented for last 40 years for a very little sum, like 2,000 rupees per month. And we write in the report that marketability would be very poor for such a property which has been rented. The problem comes that banks do not accept such kind of reports. They don't want any negative thing to be written by the valuer. And some valuers would write what the banks want. I'm not pointing a finger towards banks just because it's a fact, and banks also face too much competition amongst themselves that they have to lend money to earn a profit. As Malhotra Sahab said, this Canada Bank has reached second spot. So they face the competition and then worked hard to get that position. So it's not easy for a bank to compete with SBI in the present scenario, but they have done so. But then we have to accept the flip side also, that these auction properties do not get the real response. Not all the buyers would go for this. Only investors go for the auction properties. So naturally, investors want profit. So they would not buy a 100 crore property even for 75 lakhs, because there are expenses after buying the property. They have to get the possession, get it transferred, and to deal with the tenants. There are so many problems. So I guess that the distress sale value cannot be more than 50% for such properties, or even lesser than that. So that just because the banks, all the banks are concerned that they do not fetch the money they have lent. So that is a fact of the thing. And even private financiers during older time, they used to not get the whole thing back, and this fact should be accepted by the banks also, that if an account turns NPA, the original valuation may not be wrong, it may be right, the market is volatile, market must have gone down, or the marketability also must be poor for that particular property. Demarcation, yes, demarcation is very important. No valuer should go for a valuation without proper demarcation of the property. I take full responsibility of the demarcation. And if the property is not demarcated, then it's of no use. Because later on, getting it demarcated is very, very difficult, especially for open lands. For buildings that have got these plot numbers and all, they are demarcated. So that's not a problem for them. So demarcation is a very important thing. And now I come to a very important thing that especially Canara Bank, because our chief guest is from Canara Bank. Canara Bank has started empaneling, and it not only started, but preferring IPPI registered valuers over 34 AB valuers for registering. Maybe they have been rather misguided by our own people, some of. But then IPPI registered valuers are no good for bank valuations, because that is Ministry of Corporate Affairs, and we come for we deal with Ministry of Finance. So 34 AP valuers, which most of the members of Aiva are 34 AP valuers, and just because Canara Bank is preferring or promoting IPPI registered valuers, that is why the difference between the IPPI registered valuers report and 34 AP report may be huge. So they should consider this fact that whether IPPI registered valuers are good enough for bank valuations or not. It is their choice, it is their prerogative, they have to decide about that. I am just suggesting that banks should stick to 34 AB registered valuers only. And I am very happy that Aiva is having a large number of 34 AB registered valuers only. So this is the point I just wanted to mention, because banks are facing problems in valuations when it was at the time of sanction of loan and at the time of auction. So that is the point. Now I come to the format part. What are the things that are forced by the banks to write something or the other in the formats given by banks? So firstly, any valuation report cannot be given in a particular format, because the bank should give right to the valuer to make his own format, give his own report, write whatever he likes, and then read the report and discuss with the valuer. Now, giving a format, it's like not giving a gun to a Fauji and asking him to just go to across the LOC and fight with them. So, but still, if there is a format is also good, because it gives a bank the easy thing for bank is that they know that on point number 7 title is written, point number 9 demarcation is there. So there are so many. But during preparation of format, no valuers or valuation association is discussed. Their head office or whatever bankers, they just prepare a format amongst themselves, or IBA guide them to include certain points which are of no use, or rather which can never be answered by a valuer. Take for example, in 2009, UCO Bank introduced mandate of valuers. Apart from format, they introduced mandate. So that mandate, mostly it was a repetition, but there are certain points which I would read for you, and it's so amusing and so interesting to just I would read some certain points. Like, some smaller points, occupation of the owner. So, occupation of the owner got to do with valuation of the property? I don't understand that. And if the occupation as told by the owner is wrong, like suppose he owns a medical shop and he says that I have a kirana shop, and I write it that he is a kirana shop or he is working with government. So how can I see that his information is good enough, and how does it affect the value of the property? And secondly, relationship with applicant. Suppose there's a third party property, what is the relationship with the applicant? How would I know? This is a very funny thing. Now, some serious points. The valuer should verify seller's photo ID and address. Very, very serious and very amusing point. The valuer should verify seller's photo ID and address. Suppose the valuer is the owner is living in some other state or some other city, and he wants to buy property at Bhopal. So how would I just verify the address, and why should I verify this photo ID? What relation it has got with the value of the property? I simply don't understand. Even after 30 years in this profession, I don't understand how these two are related. Now, still one more step, seriousness. Whether a valuer should obtain certified copy of the same documents and compare it with the original submitted to the bank. He should collect the receipt from the Amin with date and seal. The valuer should verify documents like patta, title deed, and legal heir certificates from the issuing authorities. The valuer should also verify the latest property tax receipt, electricity bill, etc. So, valuer is doing everything except valuation. He's going to the Amin. Amins are there in Odisha, not in MP. So, must be some related to Odisha guy entered this thing. And verify documents like patta, title deed, legal heir certificate from the issuing authorities. You have to go back to the issuing authorities to check, verify all these documents, and the most amusing thing is that we have to give our report within a day. There's some urgency. We have to this thing sanction the loan tomorrow only. So, but my question is not that the speed, but how these things are related to the valuation profession. These are very, very serious things. Now, there's one more point, like whether the photocopy of map provided to you is genuine or not. And you have to certify that it is genuine. How would you do that? There are certain states where online maps are available these days, and you can just go to the website and you can check. That's okay. But then for older plans, which were sanctioned long back in 2006, 2010, these are not available. So, in my opinion, how would I check it, the genuineness? I would go to the Nagar Palika or corporation or whatever, Nagar Panchayat. I would go to the clerk and I would ask him to just check out the record of 2006 and show me that map, whether it is, and I'll compare it. Is it practical? Is it possible? Does it not cost anything? And why a valuer is required to do all this exercise? Should it be the scope under the scope of the valuer to go to the corporation or council or panchayat? And there are consequences. I have seen that In Madhya Pradesh, recently, Chief Minister has launched a drive against mafia, land mafia, and he was just copying your Yogi Sahib. He was trying to copy Yogi Sahib. Okay, this bulldozer se uda do properties. Now, one under construction warehouse was there with a cost of 1.5 crores, and it was under panchayat area, and panchayat was had given permission. They don't keep a proper record. Now the government authority demolished the whole warehouse, and the panchayat says that we have not issued any permission, and the valuer certified it that yes, I have checked the genuineness of map. So it is also very funny thing. Now one more thing, conducting any tests or without having any data of the structural designs and all that, and is the fees inclusive, including all these things, exercises, or a separate structural designer should be consulted for this thing, that please go and check the structural strength. He will do that entities and all the tests, and he will certify that now the structure is okay and it's good for the next 25 years. So these kind of things are also very funny, that such things are asked from the valuers. One more thing, very funny, that I think majority of the constructions are violating the sanction plan. The majority of construction are not done as per sanction plan. So some or the other violation is done. Now, what safety we can take? We can evaluate the property, the sanction part only, and we can leave the illegal part. Like the sanction part is 10,000 square feet and the total construction is 14,000 square feet. You can give valuation for 10,000 square feet and leaving aside 4,000, writing that this 4,000 square feet is illegal. That is why we are not considering it in our report. But now, this put enough 5 days that we have not included that illegal part. But now, one bank asked if this 4,000 square feet is demolished by the authority, you certify that the legal 10,000 square foot will remain stable. You want it specifically that this 4,000 will be demolished by the authority, but then certify it that the 10,000 which is legal would remain stable. Now it is up to that JCB driver whether it would remain stable or not. How can we control it? Yeah, under expert guidance of a structural engineer, it can be done. But whether these kind of guidance are sought by any government authority while doing dismantling thing, they just go and dismantle it. They don't seek any advice from structural engineers or any consultant. So how can we certify that the legal portion would remain stable and the illegal portion can be demolished without any damage to the legal structure? There are so many things, so many questions asked in the report. These are just an example. So what should be done? Is a question. What should be done? Number one, that while preparing any format, valuers association should be consulted and consulted thoroughly. What is the expectations of the bank and what valuers can give? If something valuers cannot give and it is not in their scope, it should be deleted immediately. Some questions are look very general general type of questions, but they also have very serious implications. Like the first question is name of the owner. It looks very simple. That you just read the title deed and Creta ka naam, purchaser's name, just write it. But in certain cases, just because values are not legally sound, in certain cases, it may be wrong to write the name, copy paste the name as given in the title deed. Like, suppose there's a 5-hectare land, I own 5 hectares land, and out of those 5 hectare land, I lease 2 hectares to Tarsal for 30 years for constructing an industry, and I have allowed him to mortgage the property also for seeking loans also. Now, who is the owner? Am I the owner or Darsab is the owner? So, I don't think majority of valuers can answer this thing. It should be the advocate, and the name of the owner should be taken from the search report only. That as per search report, the owner's name is this thing. But if we very confidently write the name of the owner just by copy pasting the name of the owner from the title deed, and most cases where big frauds happen, the title is the main problem. The second thing comes in demarcation, but title is the problem, and we know nothing about the title. As a valuer, we hardly know anything about title. We can read the purchaser's name only. We don't know anything about title, but we just write it, and suppose a fraud takes place. Now, a valuer is asked, how did you write this name? Have you, again, all these things, have you went to the specifying authority and checked the document or not? Have you gone to the Amin and to the certified copy, compared it with this thing? So, there are so many things. The purpose of my today's talk was to make aware of all the valuers that when a report is questioned by bankers, by auditors, by investigating agencies, by court of law, you should be able to justify each and every word you write in the report. No matter what the bank wants. There are so many times banks want something for their convenience, but then you have to justify that word, whatever you are writing. The valuer, I have given an example that he wrote that genuineness of property. Yes, I have checked it. Yes, it's good. And later on, the panchayat says that no, we have not issued any permission. So the consequences are there. So all the answers you have to give should be very judiciously written, and you must be able to justify all those answers. That was my real intention of today's talk. I'm not pointing any finger towards anyone, but the system is like that. Most of the reports, okay, not so most of the reports, some of the reports are not fair opinion of a valuer. I can say it very confidently because I have more than 30 years experience in this field. I can say it with confidence without naming anyone that many times if you certify some report and the bank says, oh, this was a second opinion, and you have given 1.25 crores. The earlier report, it it was used for sanctioning the loan was 1.5 crores. So just change it, otherwise we will not be able to disburse the loan. So this is the system. Banks are also under huge stress, huge competition. They have to disburse loans, otherwise other banks are there. Especially during the last 5 years, I have seen that HDFC, earlier ICICI, they were the big players for housing loans and all that. These nationalized banks were facing a lot of problems with these private banks. So we have to compete in the market, but that is good enough. They should compete. But then for valuers, we must play safe. If you play like Sehwag or Kohli or Rohit Sharma, you cannot expect your safety like this Rahul Dravid. You have to choose how to play. If you want to play longer innings, you have to play like Rahul Dravid only. If you want a 20-20 match or a short duration match, like deep tournament within 2-3 years, yes, there are black sheeps in our profession also. They just play for short periods and then they get out. So I would advise all the valuers to play safe, to give time to the valuation reports, see how each and every answer they are writing. It's very important. And I would request Dasab that being the chairman of our All India Value Association, we should take up the matter with the higher ups of the banks for correcting the formats. Here I am not talking about the fees at all. Fees is the secondary thing. The correctness of report is primary. Because nobody asks, no court of law, no investing agency, no auditor of bank asks what fees have you received. But the legality of the report is asked. So I am not going into the details of the fees, but then the formats should be uniform for all the banks and it should contain only the information which is required to know the market value or the realizable value of the properties. And bank should welcome any negative comments from the valuers about the property, like submergence of property during rainy season. So many properties have been submerged during this year. So suppose we have learned that during 2012 this property was submerged partially. So if we should write it that there is a chance of submergence or flooding of the property. So negative comments in any report should be welcomed by the banks, because that is where the difference of the realized value and the market value lies. Because suppose we smell that there is a dispute within the family occupying the property. It's a joint property. One of the brothers is occupying, the other one is not happy with it. Or suppose there is a dispute with landlord and tenant. We should be allowed to write those comments in our report. And that should be welcomed, not only accepted, that should be welcomed by the banks. That is my point. So, I have not covered each and every aspect of legality, because as I said, I am not an expert of legal field. Just law is in my blood and it is my interest also. And I have seen the kind of charges that the adverse face, and they know nothing about what is going on in their life. We do nothing about that. So, I guess the valuers must give emphasis on legal aspect of valuations, they must discuss among themselves, among the seniors, with the seniors, that what are the legal aspects of valuation, how to write and what to write to, and how to answer a query of the given the format, and how to safeguard oneself for the future when justification would be asked for a valuer if it is asked. So at this juncture, since time is over, it's already 19:26. So I conclude my talk, and I would welcome any questions later on. Thank you so much. Thank you everybody for listening me patiently. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Rana sir, a very, very inspiring speech. You covered wholly the valuation aspects. Now, I throw open the floor for the open discussion. Anyone can raise any question to any speaker. Thank you.
ओपी वर्मा जी, आप कुछ कहना चाह रहे थे? ओपी वर्मा सर।
Any questions, please? Otherwise, we can carry on. We can go to the next thing.
माइक आपके म्यूट है।
राणा साहब, मैं एक चीज़ बताना चाहूँगा। आप जो आपने जो कहा कि बैंक ने नेगेटिव भी वैल्यू को मांगना चाहिए, तो बैंक का एक फॉर्मेट और देखेंगे, उसमें वैल्यूएशन ऑफ बिल्डिंग पार्ट में आइटम नंबर जे में ये लिखा है एनी अदर कमेंट्स बाय और इम्पेयर्ड वैल्यूअर्स ऑन ऑथेंटिक ऑफ अप्रूव बिल्डिंग प्लान अदर्स। तो हम उसमें कमेंट डालते हैं, आप भी डाल सकते हैं। ये स्टेट बैंक की फॉर्मेट है या बैंक ऑफ इंडिया फॉर्मेट है, जिसे वैल्यूएशन ऑफ बिल्डिंग पार्ट बी में आइटम नंबर जे में ये क्लियरली पॉइंट लिखा हुआ है, एनी अदर पॉइंट। और जहाँ तक आपने फॉर्मेट वाली बताई, तो एक फॉर्मेट के लिए हमने आईबीए को चिट्ठी लिखी है, लेकिन अभी तो उसे कोई कार्रवाई नहीं हुई। फर्दर हम लोगों ने सोचे कि अगर एक टीम बन जाए तो आप अपना सुझाव दीजिए, वो उठा के हम लोग फिर आईबीए को तरफ भेज दें। बाकी कमेंट लिखने के लिए बैंक के तरफ से किसी को मना मेरे ख्याल नहीं है, क्योंकि जब पॉइंट ही बना हुआ है, आप सब लोग देख लिया पार्ट बी वैल्यूएशन ऑफ बिल्डिंग में आइटम नंबर जे में ये लिखा हुआ है। खैर अप्रूव बिल्डिंग पर लिखा हुआ ना, आप उसमें कुछ भी लिख सकते, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है। मतलब बैंक जानना नहीं चाह रहा है कि क्या क्या उसे नेगेटिव कमेंट है, क्योंकि आफ्टर बैंक का भी तो पैसा फंस रहा है ना, तो इसलिए वो भी जानना चाहिए, इसलिए पॉइंट बनाया गया। और मेरा इतना कहना था।
That's with the permission of here, few things I would like to clarify from the financial regulator's perspective. As far as our respected speaker just touched a very good point in the keynote address. So I would just like to quickly wrap up certain things. First of all, the format is a certain set of basic information. Okay, and no valuable is ever pressurized or precluded from writing any adverse comment or any adverse report. As far as it is concerned, we and valuer are working sailing in the same boat as you have rightly said. The bank is also lending money. It's a collective decision making. You being a professional, that is why bank is taking insight and opinions from a professional who is well versed in that field. It is never precluded. As far as second part is concerned, now banks are very aggressively marketing their NPA account. We have developed a specialized vertical, and in my last review, I have highlighted that vertical, and I did 160 crore of rupees recovery by selling some 56 odd assets. So banks are very aggressive. Now specialized people are there, specialized verticals are there to handle such assets in the banks. मुझे चाहिए कि now gaps are reducing, reports are dynamically improving and reducing, and it's a collaborative approach either from the bank side or from the valuer side. So any suggestions from improvement is always a welcome, because once it is challenged in the court of law, bank and valuer are in the same pedestal. It is we who justify the valuer's report. So we just, as our honorable speaker has rightly said, there is no thumb rule, because every property has a different dynamic. Some may be submerged in water. So it is very difficult for there are certain human restrictions also, and there are. But still, we want whatever best due diligence possible in a normal course of banking business and possible by a human creature, that we should take care. The very objective is that. It is nothing like that. The valuer is a separate entity. Yes, we engage valuer for certain purpose, and you are very much part of the bank. As far as from HC side, I can really assure you that any suggestion is welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. सर मेरा क्वेश्चन है कि रंजन शाह से एक प्रॉपर्टी मेरे पास आया था। हेलो
जी शुक्ला।
सर मेरे पास एक प्रॉपर्टी आया था, उसका डीड में रोड दिखाया नहीं है, लेकिन प्लॉटिंग का रोड है। हमने उसका लॉक लाइन करके वैल्यूएशन करके दिया है। बैंक मेरे को पूछ रहा है आपने लॉक लाइन क्यों लिख के दिया, क्योंकि मैंने फिजिकली देखा है वहां पर पानी भरा हुआ है, वहां कोई रास्ता नहीं है। वो बोल रहे हैं प्रॉपर्टी में रास्ता दिया हुआ है, प्लॉटिंग वो है।
सिंपल आंसर है, आपने उसका आंसर खुद ही दे दिया है कि आपने जो देखा वो लिखा, जो सही था वो लिखा।
दूसरा बैंक ने उसको रोड दिखा के वैल्यूएशन दूसरा बैंक ने दे दिया है। हमने उसको मना कर दिया कि हमने वी कैनॉट गिव वी हैव टू गिव अ लॉक लाइन एज पर माय कंसर्न।
बिल्कुल सही है, आपने कहना वैल्यूअर में लिखा होगा। और हमें किसी से कंपटीशन नहीं करना है, हमें तो जो सही है वो करना है। और ऐसा आपके लाइफ में कई बार आएगा कि किसी और वैल्यूअर ने कुछ यस नो लिख दिया है और आपसे एक्सपेक्ट किया जाएगा टू स्टिक टू योर पॉइंट। आप कभी भी अपनी बात से अडिग रहें, और क्योंकि इट्स योर लाइफ, आपको फेस करना पड़ेगा। आपको गलत दिखा है तो क्योंकि दूसरे की गलती को आपको फेस नहीं करना है, as simple as that. So please stick to your report and try to discuss it with the bank. And banks are always welcome such discussions, because ultimately it is their money, it is our money which is being lended. And if at the outset it seems that there is some problem with the property, bank would never mortgage that property.
That property has been already mortgaged.
That is, if it is already mortgaged, you just say no, please, I'm sorry, I cannot do that. Please get it corrected, get the deed corrected, or whatever the legal expert says is to be done by the bank only. You don't have to do anything in this regard. Just say no, that sorry, I cannot do that. That would be the best thing to do in terms of this.
इसमें प्लॉटिंग का जब मैप बता रहे हैं, बोल रहे हैं कि प्लॉटिंग रास्ता है, तो यू आस्क फॉर लेआउट प्लान। अगर लेआउट प्लान अगर दिया हुआ है प्लॉटिंग का, तो देन यू कैन एनी बिट अप्रूव फ्रॉम एनी अथॉरिटी, so you can consider that.
सर आपका बहुत क्लियर नहीं हो रहा है सर।
लेआउट प्लान आप बना सकते हैं कि जो प्लॉटिंग का मैप होता है, प्लॉटिंग का मैप प्लॉटिंग के मैप में अगर कुछ शो है और वो सब मैप अप्रूव दैट है, देन यू कैन कंसीडर इट।
सर
ये वो भी बताइए।
मतलब बात का Mr. Electronic Speaker, very very nice, address from Mr. Ranjan on various respectful legal reports, and particularly the process approach we should adopt in preparing the issue. Including the small items like energy. You are very right, but we should be careful in writing each and every word in our regulation. And they are very good suggestions for bankers also. That verification of title deed and pension plans, if it is done from verification of title deed, if it is done at the stage of the annual financing in legal report, if you bankers seek not only the valuer's opinion on the valuation, they also seek the title examination report from the legal expert, whatever you call it, if the title examination report, and in case they have done it, in case the legal advisor, so the firm has already done the verification of title. So why it requires from the value should be really considered by the time, and this should not form the part of the value consideration. Similarly, you are bankers normally ask us that we should verify the authenticity of the pension plan from the approving authority. Now you see that you have got a pension plan, whether it is copy or you can say original from the borrower, and you are seeking our opinion copy and that is said whether it is authentic or not. You see, when you have got a original plan, either give it to us original plan and original we can check it. How authority or having what capacity we should approve the operating authority. This is Noida, say it is UK factory, whatever it is. You will not ask who are you to details of pension plan of some other person or some other borrower, some other company. So they will not allow us, and they have to realize that in case they have already got the original pension plan, in case they can give us, and only then we can go, I mean, find some person or may go personally and ask the authority whether it is genuine or not. And they should, I mean, a separate, this is a separate assignment other than valuation. This is not a part of valuation. This is not the opinion of value of the property. And in case such things really required by the banker, they should only separately for this, I mean, expenses. Nobody will entertain us without getting any fees. I mean, obligation or another. So, in case all these things are there, then they should provide a separate, assignment or with certain attached fees. Then like structural stability, Ranata was already said, that structural stability, coming to the structural stability are also desired by some banks. You see, such a structural stability is a actual subject and only structural engineer can provide all this. No person, no engineer, other than structural engineer, qualified structural engineer can provide this certificate. So, really consider appropriate valuation for in case of they are made. And certainly, Ranjan sir was very right that our report should be some firm narrative. In case some of our observations cannot be recorded in the format, it should be attached. It should be attached in the form of a narrative. I will give some point. Point. So these are our observations, and then should certainly reflect on the observations, whether they are positive or negative, whatever it is. In case some further inquiries are certainly outsource the investigation. Part, on 3 points, saying that banks normally get problems in 3 parts. One is demarcation of property, another is the free access, and third was the most of the time lower sales realization against the estimated value, value. Lower sales realization against the value estimated by the threshold. Okay, demarcation. the batch number, so there could not be any problem unless you can say maximum of like non-partition, or you can say portion some part of the single property. Once there has to be a problem in demarcation, and in rural property, demarcation is certainly a problem, and that difficult about it. Why don't they refer from the bar of the Kujira plans for this village map where the profile number whose parts are shown in the input the title deed? They are mentioned. These are the same at the time of the center of loan. Even if they can provide it to the valuer. You can provide it to the valuer. Valuer of the certificate. This is not expect that valuer will go to the Ani or Nepal or some Brazil and apply for all this. Nepal will say, okay, come after 1 week. Will you then wait for it? On this document before outsourcing valuation and outsourcing the legal title journey.
माइक से बंद करना करो कैसे करते हैं याद है पता है वही बच्चा कोई चिल्ला रहा है
Upadhyay ji, can you tell Mr. Himanshu to mute his mic? He is actually disturbing.
माइक बंद करते ना वो
Well, it is certainly a problem in some rural areas or you can say wherever properties are part of some agriculture converted to one. Certainly these are there are problems, and sometimes these are found before the consumer law, the value or sometimes advanced recovery as intensive option. But access is also determined by the same way that Signa plans should be obtained before the sanction loan by the banker, by the lender, from the borrower at the interest rate. Only after that case is outsourced. So that is not the time to impose a tax outside for the valuer to submit the report within 48 hours.
This one.
Provide the document change in all the documents. Only can the turnout time can be, and then can subscribe it. Then you have a problem with the lower sales realization than value. This is a common issue. You see, in some of the countries, they fund, and the lenders fund based on the liquidation value. They don't fund against the realization value as we fund in other countries. So that saves them and that takes care of the liquidation. Now, what is reason? Very clear. Mr. Will very clearly said that main reason is the equipment could be the calculate, whatever they call it, and the market rate. And normally the buyers and sellers in open market, they execute the title document, same deed, execute the document, and the consideration will be closer to the citizen. So that is the problem because they save the stamp duty, and similarly, because you can say white money problem is prevalent all over the country. Nobody wants to give the entire payment in check to the bank. Why there is difference? You see earlier when there was a revision that you should convert the black money with 30 to 35% penalty. Then it was possible somebody will convert two number into one number in various methods including the stock exchange. And what now it could be done. So what happens? That the buyer, intending buyer, they normally don't like to know that the value of the property as per the government estimate. So that is the problem, and that can be addressed only if the at the stage of the sanction law, you pronounce against the liquidation value or you discuss the value, only then it can be possible. But all these differences will not be there. These are my observations. Kindly, our chief guest, Dr. Khan, please take note. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Sanjay Chopra ji, कुछ डाउट है आपको? Sanjay Chopra ji.
So, very good evening to our chief guest, Mr. Malhotra, and the main speaker, Mr. Raina, President Dasab, Upadhyay ji, and other office bearers. I have some clarification in regard to Mr. Malhotra's statement during the starting remarks. It's been usual thing from the banker that at the time of providing loan, we get different valuation, and when the account becomes NPA or substandard, we get a very lower side of value. First of all, introduce myself. I am Sanjay Chopra. I am a plant chemistry valuer from Ghaziabad, sir. So I would usually say to the bankers that whenever you are financing a loan, you please have a chartered engineer or a valuer inspection while releasing the first disbursement, because banker or if some technical person has not visited, will not be sure of whether the machinery purchased was new or a used one. So I would say that even Upadhyay sir would acknowledge that we come across in such situations when the NPA properties are asked to be valued to us. We usually come across such situations that there was a used machinery, there was a machinery not to that specification. Most of the times the imported ones. So my sincere request to has been to all the bankers and here Mr. Malhotra also, that at least before disbursing, vetting is all fine, all bankers do it. That is for just clarifying the cost factor. But installed machinery is the same as been given to the quotation to the project report to the bank matches. Inspection is necessary, sir, because if it is not up to the mark machinery which has been installed, it will affect the quality break
Mr. Malhotra is not there. Malhotra sir, are you there? Mr. Farooq? Farooq?
Yes, sir.
Sir, there was a note from Mr. Sanjay Chopra. I think you have heard. He was saying that when you are financing, you are giving a term loan to the
Yes, sir.
you are not getting the end use verified for the machinery part.
Yes, sir. Point is very well said, sir. Point is very well said. Post disbursement has been done by the bankers. It should be the by the valuer, and respective person as mentioned by the hello. Yes, sir.
सर बोलिए सर.
That is the problem, sir. मैं सर जो है कि भाई अभी भी जब होता है तो सर ये जब केसेस हो जाते हैं तो उसके बाद सर प्लांट और मशीनरी के वैल्यूअर्स के लिए सर कोई लिस्ट प्रोवाइड नहीं करती कि सर आपके पास क्या मशीनरी आपने फंडिंग किए थे, क्या नहीं किए थे, कौन सी मशीनरी है नहीं है. So that is a big problem for the plant and machinery valuers. What Mr. Sir is saying.
Definitely is raised very well points, sir. ये होता क्या है सर, वो जो भी पोस्ट डिसबर्समेंट होता है जनरली इट इज डन बाय बैंक ऑफिशियल, वेदर इट इज बाय मैनेजर और बाय ऑफिसर or some bank authority. It is not being done by the the accrued valuer or the panel automobile engineer or some.
मेन चीज मैं इसको सर नोट डाउन किया जाए सर कि इसमें जो है एक लिस्ट जो है एंड यूजर वेरिफिकेशन का जो है चार्टेड इंजीनियर या प्लांट इंजीनियर नेटवर्क से कराया गया है।
Definitely sir, it is a valid point.
Mr. Nayak, you have some questions. Anyone else who has some doubt or questions?
जैन साहब को कुछ बोलना है, दिलीप कुमार जैन साहब।
दिलीप कुमार जैन जी, दिलीप कुमार जैन, अनम्यूट कर लीजिए सर माइक को, माइक अनम्यूट कर लीजिए दिलीप जैन जी। जैन साहब आपका माइक म्यूट है, माइक को अनम्यूट कर लीजिए सर।
ओके सॉरी सर, ये मोहम्मद साहब के लिए था एक सजेशन कि नॉर्मली नाउ वी फाइंड दैट मेनी bankers are releasing fund based on the invoices submitted by the borrower. So what I suggest that they should engage the services of the valuer, chartered engineer, plant machinery valuer, that they should verify the machinery arrived at the site as per the invoice or the quotation. Because in many times after releasing all the funds and all that, they are asking a valuer to get it weighted, whereas the weighting should be done prior to release of the fund. This is my suggestion. Thank you.
Yes, sir, the same thing was discussed just now also. The end use को verify किया जाए, लेकिन जब रिलीजिंग का होता है तो उसको इनवॉइस पे रिलीज करेंगे, लेकिन इनवॉइस के हिसाब से मटेरियल आया है नहीं आया है, तो ये तो सर जो है मतलब एंड यूज वेरीफाई जब किया जाएगा तभी माफ करेंगे। और कॉस्ट रेटिंग अगर होती है सबसे प्राइस होती है
इवन बंडल vetting कराते हैं, even we should mention in our vetting report that before disposal of the final amount, inspection from the chartered engineer should be done. Whether the machines which has been vetted by us and given a report of vetting to the bank, whether it has the same specification as per the quotation submitted by the borrower, it should be clearly mentioned. It should be clearly mentioned.
और साथ इसी के साथ एक और रिक्वेस्ट है, इसी के साथ मिलती हुई रिक्वेस्ट है,
जी सर
बताइए। रिक्वेस्ट ये है कि जब जो बात रही है सबसे पहले बोला कि जब आपको रिकवरी करनी होती है, प्रोसेसिंग वेरिफाई करानी होती है, तब आप उससे दे पाते हैं ना कोई इनवॉइस दे पाते हैं, एंड राइट?
बिल्कुल
ना इसको मैं उसी का सजेशन देने जा रहा हूँ कि आप क्या करके अपने मैनेजमेंट को हमारी एसोसिएशन की तरफ से एक सजेशन दीजिए कि भाई जब आप लोन देते हैं उसमें तो आपको बार-बार इनवॉइस देता है ना।
एक्चुअली सर व्हाट हैपेंड, जिस समय लोन होता है उस समय में ओरिजिनल इनवॉइस हमें रखनी है।
यस, मैं यही बात करने जा रहा हूँ, ओरिजिनल मत रखिए। होता क्या है, व्हाट हैपन in your bank, but not in your bank, all the bank. What happens? You retire the document normally, and वो आप वाउचर के साथ लगा के इनवॉइस को ऊपर उसमें डाल देते हैं, उधर जो वाउचर का पूरा सा पत्ता होता है उसमें चली जाती है। तो
जनरली आप जो भी इनवॉइसेस होती है सर लोन डॉक्यूमेंट्स के साथ होती है, इसलिए इट इज द पार्ट ऑफ लोन डॉक्यूमेंट।
मैं यही कह रहा हूँ कि वो आप जो फाइल जो होती है, लोन फाइल होती है, अगर वो वाउचर के साथ ना चली जाए इनवॉइस, एक कॉपी इनवॉइस की फोटोकॉपी करा लें, स्कैन कर लें, जैसे मर्जी कर लें, एक लोन फाइल में अगर सारी रख ली जाएगी तो ना आपको दिक्कत आएगी हमको इनवॉइस देने में।
Sir, it is bank guidelines, sir. All the invoices must be kept with the loan paper, loan documents, not CR file, even not CR file.
मैं कल बोल रहा हूँ आप
बिल्कुल सही कह रहे हो।
Kindly Maori interpretation करते तो suggestion
I'll just add a little bit, भाई साहब, कहीं सिर्फ वर्किंग कैपिटल जो है बैंक करता है और उसमें कोलेटरल शुरू में नहीं होती बैंक मशीनरी, in addition होती है, तो day followed by the bank of preserving at least a scanned copy of the invoices. This will be easy for us on a later date, sir.
चोपड़ा साहब, सर वर्मा साहब, मैं आपसे बताना चाहूँगा, और जो भी सजेशन हो दे दीजिएगा आश्वासन को, हम बैंक को भेज देंगे। मैं इसमें और डिसीजन आपका सुझाव को आपका ग्रहण योग्य है तो साहब आप आश्वासन के माध्यम से उनको हम चिट्ठी भेज देंगे क्या उनको करना चाहिए नहीं करना चाहिए। प्लीज इसके आगे बढ़िए।
It will be welcome, sir. It will be welcome.
थैंक यू सर। और मैनी घोषाल साहब, टोलपू जी, मैनी घोषाल साहब,
Of the discussion ended, there is still some left.
एक क्वेश्चन है मतलब कि आनंद साहब से बहुत सारे हैं सर। आई थिंक यू एंजॉय इट।
नहीं हमारा तो है ही नहीं, वो चले गए कुछ काम से।
नहीं I think that he was driving actually. That is why.
सर एक क्वेश्चन आपसे ही है कि सर जो रेगुलेशन बनानी होती है आज के डेट पे वैल्यूअर से कंट्रोल हो गया है सर बैंक का। बैंकर जैसा चाहता है तो वैसे वैल्यूअर को चाह रहा है। वो वैल्यूअर से बोलते हैं मतलब बैंकर के साथ हमें लोन करना है और ये वैल्यू चाहिए हमें और मतलब कि वो बाय हुक और क्रूक किसी भी मेथड से वो वैल्यू ले लेते हैं। जब लोन देना होता है तब और सर जब रिकवरी करानी होती है तब ये चीज होनी चाहिए
सर। अभी रंजन सर ने बहुत स्पष्ट किया है सर, रंजन सर ने बहुत स्पष्ट उसमें किया है सर, है कि जो भी वैल्यूएशन है बैंकर भी सेम प्लेटफॉर्म पे है और वैल्यूअर भी सेम प्लेटफॉर्म पे है। तो अब उनको क्या नाम है, देयर आर सम ब्लैक शीप्स इन आवर साइड इन योर साइड को उसमें होता क्या है, हमें स्ट्रिक्ट रहना पड़ेगा डिस्पाइट कंपटीशन, डिस्पाइट ह्यूज कंपटीशन जो है हमें अपनी जो भी एथिक्स हैं वैल्यूएशन उस पर मतलब स्ट्रिक्ट रहना पड़ेगा सर।
मैं ये भी कहना चाहता हूं सर कि आज के डेट पे जो एनपीएस जो इंक्रीज हो रहे हैं इसमें एक बहुत बड़ा फैक्टर वो वैल्यूअर्स का भी है कि जो ओवर कर रहे हैं और जो बाइटर्स जिस हिसाब से बोल रहा है सर, मतलब एनपीए है जब प्रॉपर्टी नहीं बिक रही है मतलब वो बोलते हैं कि सर 2 करोड़ की प्रॉपर्टी आप 50 लाख दिखाओ एंड द वैल्यूअर्स आर डूइंग इट। मैं तो वैल्यूअर्स अपने जो एसोसिएशन की तरफ से बोलना चाहता हूं अपने मित्र भाइयों को कि साहब इससे बचिए, कम से कम आगे कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस बहुत गंभीर होने वाली हैं। मतलब जेल के अंदर है इन्हीं कारनामों के और मतलब कि सर इतने भी जो है अभी मैं एक एग्जांपल बताता हूं, यही कानपुर का केस है। एलएमएल लिमिटेड बहुत अच्छी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन थी, बहुत अच्छा था सर, एवरीथिंग वाज गोइंग फाइन। फाइनली क्या हुआ सर कि लिक्विडेशन में आ गई है, एनसीएलटी की दूसरा स्किपिड हो रही है, सिर्फ लास्ट 4 इयर्स बिडिंग हो रही है, कोई बिडर नहीं मिल रहा है। द प्रॉपर्टी के साथ यूपीएसआईटीसी की मिनिमम वैल्यू रेट है 14,000 रुपए स्क्वायर मीटर। नाउ इट हैज बीन सोल्ड एट द प्राइस ऑफ 7,000 रुपए पर स्क्वायर मीटर। आप इसमें बताइए सर वैल्यू कहां होगा? 7,000 के भाव में 14,000 मिनिमम है। आज के डेट मार्केट जो प्राइस वहां पर 20,000 का है, लेकिन सर 7,000 में से एनसीएलटी में से सेल हो रही है प्रॉपर्टी।
तो बात है सर पर्पस चेंज हो गया ना, प्रॉपर्टी लिटिगेशन में चली गई एक्चुअली। जब
नथिंग लिटिगेशन का बिल्कुल आपके मतलब पोजीशन में लेकर के दी जा रही प्रॉपर्टी एनसीएलटी के थ्रू जो भी प्रॉपर्टी बिकती है कोई लिटिगेशन नहीं होता है
सर। मान लिया लेकिन बैंक जो है बैंक ओपन मार्केट की तरह बैंक जब फाइनेंस कर रहा होता है तब हमसे फेयर मार्केट वैल्यू लेता है जिसमें ए और बी पार्ट दोनों होता है, ठीक है ना। और बैंकर ये कहता है कि मेरे पास फर्स्ट वैल्यूएशन आ गई है 1 करोड़ की, आपको भी 1 करोड़, आप 1 करोड़ 5 लाख रुपए दीजिए, ठीक है ना, जो भी मेरा काम होना है। जब वो प्रॉपर्टी एनपी हो जाती है और कोई वैल्यूअर उसकी 50 लाख रुपए वैल्यू देता है तो बैंक वैल्यूअर से पूछता है कि तुमने 50 लाख कैसे दी। अरे उसके लिए उस समय पर्पस चेंज हो गया, अब ये प्रॉपर्टी एनपी हो गई, लिटिगेशन वाली प्रॉपर्टी है। जब बैंक को बेचनी होती है तब ए और बी पार्ट कुछ नहीं होता, तब सिर्फ ए पार्ट होता है। ठीक है ना। अब बैंक जब फाइनेंस करता है तब वो कहता है नहीं जी दोनों ए और बी पार्ट दोनों चलेंगे, और जब वो लिटिगेशन में चली जाती है तब वो कहते हैं नहीं जी ए पार्ट ही होना चाहिए।
धवन जी, वर्मा जी, मैं आप सर वर्मा साहब आप, अच्छा ठीक है।
इसके बाद में बात किया है मेरा फारूक साहब, आपको एक छोटा सा एग्जाम्पल दे रहा हूँ। अब मेरे वैल्यू भाई भी ध्यान सुने सर। नेशनल हाईवे पे लुधियाना में एक प्रॉपर्टी है जो मॉल बन रहा है। नेशनल हाईवे लुधियाना नेशनल लिमिट के अंदर, ठीक है, 14 एकड़ जमीन है। नेशनल हाईवे पे 14 एकड़ म्यूनिसिपल लिमिट पे, चाहे मान लो नेशनल लिमिट के टैग एंड पे भी है, वहाँ पे 2-2.5 करोड़ के एकड़ का लैंड कर ले, ठीक है। मतलब आप 1 करोड़ का कन्वर्जन लगता है और 1.5-2 करोड़ पे मार्केट आप लगा लो, 2 लगा ली, 2.5 करोड़ 28 करोड़ तो हो गए, ठीक है सर। 17 लाख स्क्वायर फीट बिल्टअप एरिया है जो इनकम्प्लीट है, 17 लाख की बेसमेंट 8 फ्लोर, ठीक है सर। अगर उसको बुरे से बुरे हाल में भी 500 फुट लगाएंगे तो 85 करोड़ में हो जाएगा, ठीक है सर। तो दोनों मिला के लगभग ये करीब 110 करोड़ से ऊपर हो गया, 113 करोड़ हो ना। अब देखिए आप बैंकर, लेंडर, इवन ARP, ठीक है सर, उन्होंने सबसे पहले एडवर्टाइजमेंट किया उसका 105 करोड़, वो जो रिलायबल वैल्यू का कॉन्ट्रैक्ट है वो बैंक करोड़ कोई नहीं है, ठीक है सर। 105 का 95 हुआ, 95 का 85 हुआ, 85 का 70 हुआ, 70 का आपका 64 हुआ, 64 का 52 हुआ, और 52 का जाके वो 44 के आसपास है। एंड नाउ दे आर रेडी टू सेल इट फॉर 36 करोड़। मैं आपको सारी बातें बता रहा हूँ जो ऑन रिकॉर्ड है मेरी नॉलेज में। आई वाज सीइंग दिस प्रॉपर्टी फॉर द लास्ट 7 to 8 years। ये बात अलग है, वैल्यूएशन मैंने उसकी एक दो ही करी, ज़्यादा नहीं करी, शुरू नहीं करी, ठीक है सर। आज 35 करोड़ बेच रहे हैं आप, जब आप मान को आपकी दिख जाती है 35 करोड़ आपको रिलाइज, आप क्या कहेंगे? आप बल्कि मुझे यही कहेंगे ना, हमने इतना लोन दे दिया था और वैल्यूअर ने शुरू में जो लोन सेंक्शन कराया था उसमें 125 करोड़ 150 करोड़ की वैल्यू दी थी, आज 35 करोड़ मिल गया। विल यू नॉट ब्लेम अस?
एक्चुअली सर वही चीज है ना, इसमें दोनों पार्ट है सर। देखिए वही मैं कह रहा हूँ, दोनों पार्ट है, और मतलब हर केस में सर सेम इसको ले भी नहीं सकते, तो इसलिए वही बात आ जाती है, वी हैव टू स्टिक आवर एथिक्स एंड वैल्यूज व्हेन वी आर डूइंग दिस। तो उसमें सारी चीजें सर एक ही उसमें नहीं कर सकते।
सिमिलर केस करनाल में आप अगर उधर जाते हो बीटी रोड पे, हवेली एक रेस्टोरेंट है बहुत बड़ा,
हाँ जी सर बताइए।
तो जो भी 85 करोड़ से शुरू हुआ था ऑप्शन, वो अल्टीमेटली 48 करोड़ देता, उसको भी किसने नहीं लिया।
नहीं तो अल्टीमेटली सर एक्चुअली उसमें डेलीगेशंस का रहता है ना भाई, जैसे हम लोग पहले 10% किया, अलग अलग डेलीगेशंस रहती है उसमें, फिर अल्टीमेटली जिस समय सेल करना है सर।
बट व्हेन यू रियलाइज द लोएस्ट यू ब्लेम द वैल्यूअर। दिक्कत यहाँ पे।
हेलो सर वर्मा जी,
एग्जैक्टली
वर्मा जी मेरे ख्याल ओपन डिस्कशन खत्म करें। मैं मनीष घोषाल से कहूँगा कॉन्फ्रेंस स्पीच दे ताकि इसको आखिर बंद करी जाए। मनीष घोषाल जी अपना कॉन्फ्रेंस स्पीच दीजिए।
एक मिनट मल्होत्रा जी कुछ बोलना चाह रहे हैं।
Okay, just one sec for Malhotra ji only.
Just quickly, sir, 1 minute, I will wrap up one thing. Sir, I am the person in this career of 17 years of banking, I have seen the both sides of it. I have seen the sanctioning part also, as well as I have seen the enforcement part also. So what I say that there is no blame game, because valuer and bankers, we never insist any valuer to give any kind of report, and we always say that sir, we want your fair and independent opinion, and we always go and abide by that. That is why this institution has been created, and we respect that thing. We respect your opinion, and we always abide by that. If there are clarification or suggestions are required, yes, we do call for discussions, and we try to understand your perspective also. So there is no blame game as far as bankers are concerned. We are very positive, we are very open. Only thing is that the law of the land is such that is because judges are being provided with ample discretionary power to do the threadbare post-mortem of any case. And every time opinion changes. So what we say, whatever you are giving, you justify that. We also stick by that and we also justify our stand in court of law based on your opinion. There is no blame game, sir. I just want to add
very well spoken.
Thank you, Mani ji, Maina Ghoshal sir.
To conclude, first we have Mukesh Malhotra ji, RM Canada from Kanpur. He insisted upon the proper legal enforceable rights of the property. Property is a clear title, it is marketability, and also he spoke about the volatility of the market. He also spoke about the demarcation of the property. Property should have proper demarcation. He also said about the building code and about 25 code, the national building code I think he was speaking about. And he also said about the property approachable, etc. location of the property, regarding the valuation of reports and also the Supreme Court judgment questioning the value and the volatility of market regarding he said that draft leader said 100 to 200% property value. He also mentioned this. Then next, Mohammed Faruqji of Canada also, he said about the vehicle valuation or automobile valuation, and we the need for present in Kanpur, not so anyone in Kanpur or anyone other from Kanpur having knowledge experience in vehicle valuation can apply there in Canada. Then Vivek Astana and Navadan Yadav from IOE Chairman of Manufacturing Club, here is valuation aspect of legal. And then our Dr. Raina sir came after Raina. We spoke about the legal aspect of valuation. We spoke about two things: legal aspect, civil liabilities and the criminal liability. Because the civil liability, he said that the client lost trespass of the client due to the valuation report, and the criminal liability spoke about the valuers being sent to jail for no wrong of the valuers per se. Then he said valuers should be like creditors of the properties of the banks. When he spoke about Mr. Raina, he talked about the indemnity bond, the legal heirs, successors and assigners. Why this indemnity bond to carry over to legal heirs? He spoke about these things. And why valuers, he spoke about why valuers cannot justify the valuation report under judicial standard. The creditors, right? In many cases, there has been observed and they are being sent to jail and punishment because he also then he justified why, because he said the government guideline rates are not viable or there are no sale instances available during the time of valuation. So these are the reasons, and also the black money caught in the transaction of the property. These are the reasons for the why valuers cannot justify under judicial standards. Then he said, international valuation standards and RBI has not seen the light of the day of the court. They are all circumstance and majority of High Court also have issued stay order against the indemnity. So these three things are he against IBPI and IBS and indemnity bond, and he spoke about the myth. Many valuers think you go for the lower side, it will be safer, but it can be because when value is less than the guideline value of the government. So he said also spoke about the IBPI. He said before and after IBPI, not very much difference in haircut was there, and also not. He also said due to volatility in the market, the option value, the investors go for the option value. So we be very careful in preparing the report regarding the real value and option value for the volatility market factor. Also, he said of the owners of valuers for due to and he said that they should be like that you point fingers to anyone and another just point fingers to other person like this. It should not be like this. The valuer should be aware. Aware means they should be well versed by through the valuers association organization. They should be acting like that. You don't want to say. Then he said any valuation report cannot be particular format. The valuers should have their own. Even the bank could not give the format. The valuers should have their own format. Very good suggestion. He said, you could enter a mandate for valuers, like occupation of the owners, all these things. And he said there are certain things which should not be there, like the valuer should not verify legal deeds, or they are not responsible for the packages verifying of that thing. And the army and the cultural deeds, they should be improper. Then the patta deed and all those things. Then the structural service report emphasized on the separate structural engineer to be engaged for the NDT or for the remaining life of the structure, 20 years or 30 years, whatnot. The structural engineer should be engaged and the structural service report. Like this. And majority of the construction, not as but he said that apart from structure, majority of the construction, what we face in the plan, sanction plan, are not as per sanction plan. So he said if you value as per the sanction plan only. So 30% valuation, whatever it is, put that thing in your report, not the unsanctioned part. Then he said valuers association should be consulted before preparing any format for the valuation format for the banks. The banks have their own format and they have not consulted the valuation association like that. They have their own way of valuation of the getting difficulties. So valuation should be kept in the loophole before preparing any format by any bank. A very good suggestion from Mr. Rana sir. And our valuation format should be uniform for all banks. So some other banks having this type of report format. SBI having this similar. So all the banks should have uniform format. This suggestion, Dr. Rana's suggestion. And also he said submerging or flooding issue is not looked upon in a good light. They should valuers should put something on this. A negative issue also, he said, is to be written in the valuation report, and they should also be welcomed by banks. The negative issue like flooding and all those things, and structural service report and whatnot. They should be things. And very good suggestion. And one suggestion, Sanjay Toprani, the chartered engineer, valuer should inspect the property. He is a planner engineer valuer. His suggestion is. Lastly, I want to thank all the learned members of Aiva, and Mr. Dasji and Mr. Ranaji and Mr. Malhotraji and Mr. Farooqji for giving such wonderful talk in this webinar. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
सर अभी
Thank you.
हेलो सर, वोट ऑफ थैंक हमको जब को उपाध्याय नहीं देगा तो हम जाएंगे कहाँ? वो नहीं चलेगा, वो तो भूल गए, उन्होंने दे दिया, लेकिन काम तो तुम्हारा है।
ये आज की डेट पे मार्केबल रहा कि हमारे यहाँ पे पार्टिसिपेंट्स जो है हमारे साथ आए हुए, ये बहुत बड़ी एक्सपेक्ट है किसी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में।
चार्जर रखो वो।
ये उत्तम आदमी है और 70 आदमी तो ऐसे रहे कि जो कंटिन्यूअस जो है 2 घंटे तक जो है हमारे साथ जुड़ते रहे जो है आज से इनका प्रचार को बनाए। Give your children time to hear it. Chief guest, Mr. Mukesh Malhotra जी, मैं उनका बहुत धन्यवाद देना चाहता हूँ। जो समय निकाल करके जो टाइम्स की रिक्वायरमेंट्स होती हैं, उसके लिए उन्होंने भाई अपनी कुछ बातें रखी, बताया। मैं थैंकफुल करना चाहता हूँ मोहम्मद फारूक जी का, जिन्होंने जो समय निकाल करके हम लोगों के साथ शिकायतें हो हमारी या उनकी तरफ से जो रिक्वायरमेंट्स हो उनको साझा किया। मैं धन्यवाद देना चाहता हूँ अपने रंजन राणा जी, जिन्होंने एक अच्छे टॉपिक्स के ऊपर हम लोगों का ज्ञानवर्धन किया, हम लोगों को उसके बारे में विशेषता बताई कि क्या क्या चीजें होती हैं, क्या क्या चीजों को रखना चाहिए, ध्यान देना चाहिए। धन्यवाद रंजन राणा जी। चेयरमैन और सेक्रेटरी साहब मिस्टर विवेक अस्थाना जी और मिस्टर रमाकांत यादव जी का, आज के प्रोग्राम के कन्वीनर मिस्टर मैनी घोषाल जी का बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद, जिन्होंने जो है इस प्रोग्राम का संचालन किया। और सबसे आखिरी में मैं अपने प्रेसिडेंट श्याम सुंदर दास जी का बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद देना चाहता हूँ, जिनके अथक परिश्रम से और वैल्यूअल समुदाय को एक साथ जोड़ने में, उनके ज्ञानवर्धन करने में, अपना पूरा समय ज्ञात करने के लिए और इसने प्लेटफॉर्म पर ले आकर खड़ा करना, ये हमारे प्रेसिडेंट भी कर सकते हैं, दूसरा कोई आपको में संभव नहीं है। मैं उनका आपसे बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद देना चाह रहा हूँ। थैंक यू ऑल फॉर जॉइनिंग दिस मीटिंग।
थैंक यू सर, थैंक यू
सर विदाई लेने से पहले हम आपको अनुरोध है, पिछले साल आप लोगों ने बड़ी सक्सेस में सेमिनार बनाया, रंजन नाना भी सुन रहे, अभी तो उन्होंने तय नहीं किया कितने लोग आएंगे। हम उम्मीद करेंगे जितना लोग जहाँ से आए थे पिछले साल उतना तो यहाँ से आए। गाजियाबाद में 7 लोग हमें कन्फर्म दे थे, 7 लोग आ रहे हैं, और दिल्ली से कोई कन्फ्यूजन नहीं आया। रंजन नाना अभी तो बताया नहीं, तो मैं कल जितना पिछले साल जहाँ जहाँ से आए थे उतना तो आए, साथ है कम से 20-25 अब बढ़ जाए। ये हमसे सबसे हाथ जोड़ के निवेदन है। वर्मा साहब और बोगरा साहब तो आए, कुछ बोले नहीं है, तो कम से उम्मीद करते हैं आप लोग कुछ ज़्यादा गैदरिंग हो। और मैं फारूकी साहब से भी कहूँगा, RM साहब से भी कहूँगा, वो भी 12 नवंबर को टाइम रखें ताकि हमारे साथ ऑफलाइन मीटिंग में हमारे साथ पार्टिसिपेट करें। थैंक यू।
श्योर सर, बिल्कुल सर।
थैंक यू सर। मैसेज आएगी, मतलब कि मैं सभी के पास धन्यवाद सर।
थैंक यू।
थैंक यू।
थैंक यू।